Hello and welcome to Advertisers Watching Ads. My name is Tom Ollerton. I'm the founder of Automated Creative, the creative effectiveness ad tech platform, and this is a weekly show where brands watch other brands' ads.
Even the lunatics that are getting brands tattooed will only choose Heinz.
I love ketchup, but I didn't expect people to tattoo this so much.
I didn't even know that people got Heinz tattoos.
People are proud to be fans of stuff, and if it's weird, it's almost more pride in it nowadays.
So before we get to this week's creative, let's meet this week's guests.
Hi, I'm Alesha. So I work at Formula One as an acquisition marketing manager.
I'm Rhoda. I work in operations and I'm an automated creative.
I'm Chris. I'm the co-founder of Pulse Advertising.
And I'm Adrian O'Brien. I lead Unilever's health and wellbeing business in Europe.
Right. What a panel. There will be no stone left unturned. On a scale of 1 to 5, give this a vote. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, that is a strong contender for ad of the year. Well done, Heinz. So, Alesha, what is going on here?
From what I've understood, there was a big sort of PR campaign over in Brazil with a lot of people actually getting their tattoo. There being some sort of health concerns around red ink. So then they've almost taken that and actually created their own ink. And I think in their global campaign, they've then taken that iteration and made it into this big campaign and press, media, all sorts. And the idea is people are big fans. I think you've got Ed Sheeran, who's actually famously known to have a Heinz tattoo. And they've sort of taken it and then brought the label to life in a way. So
just a bit of context for me, actually, also. Heinz are the most discussed brand on advertisers watching ads. So I think 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5. You asked an AI to draw a ketchup bottle and it would just draw lots of Heinz. This kind of thing is very common for Heinz, is that they will do these kind of low cost PR kind of stunts. But Chris, I'm keen to know from a sort of influencer perspective, what's your take on this?
I mean, this is clearly recognizing consumers, right? Recognizes the people that believe in the brand, in Heinz. And I think people want belonging, people want connection, and people want to be seen. So I think addressing those people and empowering that image and that relationship to broader audience. I love ketchup, but I didn't expect people to tattoo this so much, and to sort of expand to broadcast that message of that community, of that belonging. I think that's what it's essentially about, what it amplifies. I think it's a fantastic stunt as part of this whole campaign that covers so many things.
It talks really nicely to the brand lovers that are in love with Heinz, but I'm actually interested in kind of considering how it goes a bit beyond that. So there's probably not that many of us that will tattoo a brand's logo onto us, but they're using that as the creative dramatization of that kind of love for the brand. But beyond that, I think it's talking about no replacement. It's talking about quality. It's talking about number one. And if you look at their AI campaign, that was nothing to do with tattoos, but it was the same thing, saying that we are the number one. We are clearly the best ketchup out there. And even the campaign they've run the last year, which was that even when it isn't Heinz, it has to be Heinz. And you had all the takeaways filling up, tubs of Heinz with generic ketchup. I think consistently they're using different touch points to try and bring to life this idea of Heinz being the number one, undisputed across the board.
Sure. Right now it's the leading, there's no alternative really. You pick Heinz. But how do you sustain that across decades? And I think elevating that all the time is not about awareness. I don't think it's about awareness. It's consideration. It's what does it stand for? How clear is that number one positioning? And to sustain it ahead of other brands, it doesn't go to the details of nutrition or other things, right? It's really brand.
It's just accepting that you're kind of the people who don't like ketchup with their food are not going to convert to having condiments with their food suddenly. This is for the die-hard fans. And the die-hard fans love this stuff. You can order the limited edition bottle. I don't know if they make any money off that. Like the PR part is the big part of it. But there are those people that are like collectors. I think there's a guy in one of their ads. It's like a collector of things that do Heinz. So I wonder if it like captures a more broader audience that if you're looking in the soup aisle, are you more likely to buy Heinz soup because you've seen this Heinz loyalty campaign? And yes, it's ketchup related. And yes, they must own that market share. But I think it's just the brand loyalty across their portfolio, which is much wider.
What's the cognitive step here? It's so weird that I don't know what the link is.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of shock in a way. For example, I didn't even know that people got Heinz tattoos. So I think there's an element of, oh, this is happening. But then there's that top of mind awareness. We see these rogue ads, they're going to stand out in our minds just a little bit more. That top of mind awareness, you're then going to get off the back of it, so that when you're next in the supermarket, maybe you wanted to look at the supermarket brand or what have you, but because you've got that in your mind, no, the ketchup I need to get is Heinz, that's just cementing them in people's minds when they are grocery shopping, when they are out and about. So I think that's kind of what they're going for.
I think it has to be about driving that superiority, doesn't it? We can't really be talking to the people that want tattoos. As a business opportunity, segment-wise, for ketchup, it's got to be too small. So it's got to be just about driving continual superiority against own label brands, against kind of trade offerings, that type of stuff.
You either buy the budget option, right? The household brand of that supermarket, or you buy the actual main brand. And then you pick Heinz, but you don't pick the second best. Either you pay for Heinz or you buy the budget one, but we don't buy the interim mid-level thing in between, I would say. Make it number one, pick Heinz.
I was wondering, is it something as sort of random as we're that great or we're the best that people will even tattoo us? So then it's that building that sort of like connection between the two.
If you look at it in the theme of the adverts consistently that they've been going for, it's ultimately about advocacy, as in even AI is telling you it has to be Heinz. Even the lunatics that are getting brands tattooed will only choose Heinz. Even the fast food restaurants that are cheating their consumers know it has to be Heinz. So everyone is saying it has to be Heinz, which is their end line. So I think you get to these multiple different executions that all dial up to the same point of advocacy of there cannot be another choice.
It wouldn't sound that mad for your friend to say, oh, it has to be Heinz. And you wouldn't be like, are you just saying the slogan? Because it is true. Like if someone hands you like, it's mad that I can't think of any other brand apart from supermarket owned or Heinz. So that kind of sums us up right now to use the example. But if someone did hand you it, you're like, oh.
And they've done it before in beans, right? Beans means Heinz. Like we all know that as well if you grew up in the UK. And it's another example of them kind of cementing their place as kind of number one in the category, no need to question it.
The tattoo part is just one part of the whole absolute like fandom state. People are proud to be fans of stuff, and if it's weird, it's almost more pride in it nowadays. I think Marmite was the first true example of kind of playing into fandom, but I feel like TikTok's kind of expanded that like fandom view where like being proud of you being a bit of a mad person about a certain thing. You can take pride in that like nerdiness of how random it is. And that's where the tattoo thing comes in.
So what are you guys going to be taking back to your teams?
They want to own the category of ketchup brands. They go for brand. They don't talk about anything beyond logo and brand. And then they own it with the most extreme you can do, and tapping something that's fundamental to people, seeking connection, seeking belonging, wanting to be seen, and recognizing all of that.
Don't be afraid to explore the sort of niche interests of your fans and just see where it takes you. We've got so many like different people we're speaking to, and there's probably some sort of common ground that could be really interesting as an angle.
If you were Hunt, if you were the number 2 ketchup brand, what would you be doing to combat this?
Have to get a price point, surely, in the current market. You just have to undercut them. The Heinz is significantly more expensive than the next. I think it's like £3 versus like £1 or under.
The next best alternative, I would say, is the blind tasting comparison of Pepsi and Coke. Maybe you've seen that. Of people sitting and all people saying, I love this Coke. And later on, you see how the sleeve of the Coke goes down and actually it's Pepsi and people feel like it's the same. I feel like that's a comparison that maybe would relate to what would the second best or second most popular, whether it's the best, we don't know.
I think what would be really interesting if you were that brand is to consider what is your brand difference, because that's the game that Heinz are playing. So kind of where are you on that? Do you get to a place where you make Heinz feel quite sort of too mainstream or too passé or too 1990s, or do you want to follow the crowd and have Heinz, or do you want to have the more artisan bespoke ketchup? Or is there a role for you to carve out a brand positioning? If you want to have an interesting personality, you need to have an interesting ketchup.
I think that's a beautiful line to end it on. Would you sign off this campaign as it stands? Yes or no? 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you all next week.